Hey guys, what is going on? We are on day 7 of 100 days of daily posting. And today we're going to be talking all about how I believe imposter syndrome is not actually real. And we are living in a society where we love labels. And here goes Ace chewing on his ball already. Ace, no, thank you. Why don't you just come sit right here? You could just sit right here. So I am really excited about today because honestly, I felt like I was stuck in what I thought was imposter syndrome until I got really honest and clear with myself. But first, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brianna. I am first and foremost a 20 plus year licensed clinical psychotherapist. But beyond that, I am a multifaceted mentor. I coach 6 and 7 figure business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. I'm a stylist, I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. So, welcome to this side of the world, and let's get into it. So I truly believe that imposter syndrome isn't real. What I know to be true is that every ounce of imposter syndrome is a fear of being seen. So today we are going to deep dive into why it's time to cut that label off. Because just so you know, in the psychology world, what you think is what your brain latches onto, and what your brain latches onto is what you do. So we are going to cut out labels and we are going to start identifying some fears that stop us from doing the thing that we are meant to do because of our God given talents and gifts. So, if I continued to say, who am I to do these YouTube videos? There are other people talking about the same exact thing as me that have more followers and more subscribers, maybe more life experience, more education. If I was to continue to say that I'm not saying anything different from other people, I would not be here today. I would still be holding myself back from using my voice in the way that I was intended to speak with the things I was intended to talk about because of the life experiences I had and not be here. And so I think that this is what stopped me. I believe that this is what stopped me from showing up 5 years ago because I could have already been on here doing this. But back then, I was so afraid to be seen. I was so afraid to be bigger than I was. I was so afraid to be vulnerable. And so there was no way I could do it. And that is why I believe that imposter syndrome isn't actually imposter syndrome. It is just fear that looks like resistance. It is fear that looks like playing small, and it is fear that looks like holding back. And so we are going to break this stuff down so that I can not only be a testimony to you of what is possible, but that you can also find an encouragement to maybe take one tiny step forward in an area that you have been resistant, fearful, and holding back from stepping into. Because here I am, look, day 7 of 100 days. I mean, like I said, I'm a day behind. If you didn't read the other one on, perfectionism, go ahead and listen to it because, sometimes life. But I was going through topics to share and I started to think about why it took me so long to get to this place. And I was looking at, well, I had all this imposter syndrome. But then as I was like thinking about this, I was like, first of all, I hate that word because like it's number one, it's not in the DSM. Okay. Like it's not a actual diagnosis. So it can't be a syndrome. A syndrome is a series of behaviors, right? So there is that. However, being an imposter would mean that I would have to be a fraud, being that I'm doing things to pretend I'm somebody else. And no, I was just holding back from being who I am. And so that is the mic drop that I want you to really listen to because this is more about being seen. It's more about being honest and it's more about the fear of being accepted in the places that you're walking into. So whether that's for a job interview, for a different type of position than you've ever been in, whether it's something like this, wanting to start a YouTube channel or start posting your face on IG or TikTok. Maybe it is even stepping into a whole new arena when it comes to a career or a business that you are questioning. But the moment that you are afraid to be seen, afraid to be accepted, and afraid to be honest, and when I say honest, I mean transparent about who you are without divulging all the information, because y'all don't need to know every aspect of my life, but I'm going to give you a lot of it. Okay. But this is if you felt like a fraud, If you feel like you have the evidence that proves that you are capable, that you are intelligent, that you have the skill sets, that you have the talents to do something, but you feel like a fraud, then this video is for you. And if you know somebody that those words have come out of their mouth, you need to share this video with them because I know this is going to bless you. We're naming this problem all wrong. So I am debunking imposter syndrome today so that we can get on the same page and I can help you get moving in the direction that you want to be going. So I've got some notes here and I'm really excited to share. So let's get into it. So imposter syndrome, first and foremost, is not there is no it's not the fear of being exposed as unqualified. That's what the definition says, but I don't believe that's true. It is not a fear of being exposed as unqualified. It is a fear of fully being seen and not accepted. It's a fear of fully being seen and not accepted. So I want you first and foremost to go back into your life, way back, like how I was in third grade and things happened to me then, and how I was in sixth grade and things happened to me then. I want you to look back and take a timeline of your life and see where you've experienced not fully being seen or not fully being accepted or both. Itch my nose for a second. Because, see, the definition of imposter syndrome says that you feel like you don't belong, that there's a fear of being found out as if you're trying to act like somebody you're not, that you're discounting your accomplishments, that your consistent self doubt holds you back despite your competence, and that it's typical among common high achievers, creatives, and leaders. That's imposter syndrome. But when you look at all of those, feeling like you don't belong, fear of being found out, discounting your accomplishments, consistent self doubt, all I'm hearing is self esteem issue, self esteem issue, self esteem issue. So let's take out this identity of having imposter syndrome and just acknowledge you are scared. You are scared. And it is okay to be scared. And it is okay to be afraid because I have been there. And I want to talk to you about why we've got it wrong when it comes. Oop, I burped. Excuse me again. I did that yesterday. I'm so gross. I believe imposter syndrome is being mislabeled. And this is why. Okay. Number one, it's a fear of being seen. And let me tell you why. So, visibility equals vulnerability. One of the biggest reasons why I have been afraid to do something like this is because I automatically knew that with more visibility comes more responsibility. And with more responsibility comes more integrity. And so, if I'm not living in integrity with my current way of life, then how could I ever be vulnerable? Because I'm gonna have to hide the parts of my life that I feel ashamed of because of either how I'm behaving, how I'm responding, how I'm living, that are not in alignment with what I'm telling other people to live, especially as a therapist. And let's be honest, y'all, there's a lot of shady therapists out there. I didn't say the SHITTY word, I said SHADY, shady therapists out there who are telling people what to do, who are living a life that isn't reflective of what they're telling other people to do. And it's crazy. And I've been there. I've been one of those, helping women with anxiety while I was riddled with it. Like, make it make sense. There's no way that that is good therapy, right? So visibility equals more vulnerability. And what does more vulnerability create? Well, it creates opportunity to be judged. And for someone like me who was severely bullied when they were younger, in third grade, my parents moved us from West Coast California, SoCal, to Idaho. And so we went from this beautiful, city to a podunk farming town with 5,000 people in it. And when I tell you I did not fit in, that is an understatement. Here comes this tow-headed, tan-skinned little surfer kid who lived on the beach into this farm town where, there was cornfields and cattle. I did not fit in. And it was clear I did not fit in because I was told I didn't fit in, nor was I welcomed there because of how I dressed, how I acted, the way I spoke, the way I held myself. And so I was judged for being who I was. What did little Brianna in third grade learn from that? You got to adapt and be who everybody is telling you you need to be so that you can be accepted, because rejection feels like crap. So I had been carrying for so many years this fear of judgment, both within myself because I wasn't accepting myself and because of the fear of other people. And so I really had to start getting okay and developing a stronger sense of my own identity and increasing my self-esteem to be prepared for whatever came in the comments, for whatever came from my family, for whatever came from other people in my life, because judgment of others was going to stop me. So that was one thing. The other piece of visibility, equally more vulnerability, is that growth makes you noticeable. So, like I mentioned, like the busier, why is that the word I used? The more popular you get, the more eyes are on you. The more eyes that are on you, the more that you got to be careful not to make a mistake, because somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to call you out on it. And so, again, I could not be honest with y'all about things that I wanted to talk about because it was going to expose the very messy, yucky parts of myself that I had not healed or made peace with. So, and let's be honest, things like this, it amplifies everything, right? Like you cannot hide at all. So you aren't afraid. Here's the thing though, I want you to consider this. You are not afraid when nobody's watching, right? You're not afraid to do that thing or say that thing or be this way when nobody's watching. But when you get into a platform like this, let me tell you, it's pretty darn scary. So, number one is there's a fear of owning your truth. It's not imposter syndrome. You are just afraid to own your truth. Oh, sorry, you are just afraid of being seen. Number two is you are afraid of owning your truth. You're not having imposter syndrome. You're just afraid to own your truth. Owning our truth is scary because people often teach around the wounds, around the pains, around, these kind of more in-depth parts of ourselves. Why? Because again, shame is connected to that. And who wants to like sit and say, I'm really ashamed about, dating a man who diabolically should have been on a Dateline episode. I don't want to admit to the shame of like pulling up on another dude's house every, hour to see if he's really saying where he is. I don't want to be in the shame of, having a marriage end and feeling like I let everybody in my life down. Like I could keep going. There was so much shame that I was living in. And my story about why I didn't do more long form content long ago only taught me more about my shame. But here's the great news about that. When you are a healed version of yourself, where you have reconciled with your shame, when you have repented against the behaviors that go against who you've been created to be, there is a clarity that you get from that. And so authenticity in the real world, whether it's with your career, whether it's in relationship, whether it's on social media, it requires integration. It requires you putting into practice the things that you've been learning, but not perfection. We talked about this the other day. Perfection is going to hold you back, but authenticity is going to bring you forward. And let's be honest, I feel like that's what we're craving more and more in this world, is just people who are real, who tell real stories, who have real experiences, and who have real solutions. Because that's one thing that I want to make clear is I'm not going to drop in here anything that I haven't tried or I'm currently living through using as a tool to get me through whatever situation I'm going through. So I just want to remind you that if you have a fear of owning your truth, you are not a fraud because you don't have it all together. You feel like a fraud when you're hiding the parts of yourself that you're trying to keep behind the scenes in order to show as if you are this person. That's when you're a fraud. But being truthful about who you are, there's no You can't imposter that. There's no way. So I'm going to encourage you to own your truth. And I'm going to give you some steps on how to do that here in a bit. But the third thing that I want to debunk as imposter syndrome is it's actually a fear of not being accepted once you're honest. Fear of rejection, my friends. Fear of rejection. Now, raise your hand or drop a hand in the comments if you know what that feels like, because I surely do. So, this hits on like belonging, identity, worthiness. So, if you are afraid of not being accepted, what you are truly afraid of happening is not feeling like you have a sense of belonging, not being brought into a space and being seen as who you are, right? If you have a fear of not being accepted, then you have a fear of who you are. You have a fear of the God-given identity you have that is messy, that is imperfect, that has scars, that has battle wounds. If you have a fear of not being accepted, then what is behind that is a lack of worthiness or deservingness or enoughness for what you've done so far in life or who you are. And so I want you to really reflect on this. If you are stuck in a season where you feel like you're being an imposter or a fraud, because you are not. You are not an imposter and you are not a fraud. You are just afraid of being accepted. Let it sink in. It is okay to be afraid of being accepted, to be hired for that job, to be desired by a man, to step into a room that you know that you stand out. I have done that so many times since moving to Charlotte. The only white woman in a room full of black women. Someone who is in her 40s that no longer desires to be a therapist and is stepping into these new pockets, still unclear of what she's doing next in her career. So kind of lost. But this is the messy part of me that if somebody wants to reject me for that, then that is a lane and a room that I was never meant for anyway. And that's what I want you to be able to see. So I have 3 questions for you here. What if they see the messy parts of you? What if? What if they see the messy parts of you? What if your story is actually what qualifies you for the next room you're walking into? What might happen? What's possible? And what if you actually don't fit the image? What happens? What are you most afraid of? I want you to see where you're searching for belonging, where you're searching, where the part of you that has been masked or having to hold back is lost in that identity shift of who you've always been, but who you truly are. And where is this story of I don't deserve, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not enough, hold you back? Because I promise you, you're only an imposter if you are pretending. You are only an imposter if you are masking. You are only an imposter if you are being fraudulent and dishonest about who you are in the rooms that you walk into. Authenticity cancels that fraudulence. Integrity cancels that fraudulence. You just have to arrive with a level of honesty. And again, that's where those fears kick in because it's scary. There is a big unknown. And I had to remind myself of that because if I wasn't healed enough to step into this, then I would never be honest enough. And as my healing grows, because that's a constant in life, I'm going to continue to be more honest as I walk into the room. But what I can promise you is when you click on Brianna's name, you're never going to see her pretending to live a life that doesn't exist because that's just not who I am. So I want you to consider how imposter syndrome shows up. It shows up as avoiding opportunities that increase your visibility. It shows up as not applying, not posting, not speaking, not going to that thing. It shows up as over preparing or procrastinating. It shows up as shrinking yourself in rooms you belong in. And it shows up as comparison paralysis, where you say, well, they have this and I don't, or they're better at that and I'm not. And so These are all truly still fears. It's not it being an imposter, they're still fears. So, all of these are a set of behaviors that create a syndrome, but you're still not being somebody else here. You're just afraid to be who you are. So, how do we break that cycle? Number one, you've got to change your self talk. You have to go from who am I in this space to what if my honesty is my qualification? What if that quirk I have is actually what qualifies me? What if that stutter that I have when I speak is actually what's going to have more eyes on me that really have people listen? What if the girl who dressed so strange is going to be the same girl that encourages others to be more authentic? That story's me. You'll hear that another day. What if, what if, what if? Because you have the qualifications as long as you're being authentic to you. Number two is take one step in that direction. You've got to take a visibility step. Visibility is a way to grow and to expose. Every time you make yourself more visible, you're giving yourself an opportunity to grow. And that growth is what allows for exposure to happen. So you don't just jump into things, you continue to practice it and you learn from it each step at a time. And then you develop the growth and then you get more visible. Do you hear what I'm saying? So this is how confidence is built. Confidence isn't built by staying stuck in the fear. Confidence is built by taking action, even when it blows up in your face. And let's be honest, I've had multiple things blow up in my face. And look, I'm still alive, you guys. I'm here. So it'll be okay. It'll really be okay. Number three, anchor to truth. You've got to anchor into what is really in the moment. What is reality? What is happening? Not what you're feeling. Evidence is competence. Evidence is what you see. Look at the feedback. Look at the fruits of your life. Look at the fruits of your labor. Look at the fruits of your accomplishments. What are they communicating to you? That is your proof. Anchor into that as truth. God's calling is always going to be bigger than your comfort. So if God gave you a gift, fear vetoes anything that is fear based because that gift is supposed to be out into the world to bless others. And through blessing others, you're opening more doors for yourself and for those people. And look at that feedback that happens. More doors open, more people come in, more doors open, more people come in. And number four is I want you to set containers or set goals here. And the purpose of this is you've got to have daily commitments. So look at me. I want to become a better speaker. I want to get more clear on what the heck I'm doing next in my life. I want to be the most myself. So my commitment, show up on video for the next 100 days in a row and just talk to y'all. And I'm doing that. And that progress starts to create direction. Okay? So, you are not an imposter. You are just afraid. And what do we know about fear? It's just as fleeting as joy, happiness, confidence, excitement, all of those other things. So, here's my question to you. What if the thing you're calling imposter syndrome is your call to come out of hiding? What if the thing you're calling imposter syndrome is actually your call to come out of hiding? If you are standing on the edge of some form of new visibility, that will always come with responsibility. Your visibility will always come with responsibility. It's okay to be afraid, but don't let it stop you. Okay? That's it. All right. My name's Brianna. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you for day 8. Ta-ta.